I love this song. I'm sorry. I love this song. Because for me, this song is like, believe it or not, as much as I love this song, I only get to listen to it like once a week. I only listen to it here, and then when I go home, I forget all about it, and then when I come back, I'm like, oh, I love this. You're like, yeah. Well, welcome again to Work It Out with Mercy Quaye, the show about what people do for work, at work, and what motivates us to move. Each week, we're talking to innovative people who have ditched their 9-to-5 to take on their own kind of special 24/7, and even those who have ditched the status quo altogether to be their own boss. Consider this your... the show used to be on Monday. So I was going to say, consider this your Monday motivation. It might be Tuesday. So consider this your potential Tuesday transformation and your weekly invitation to find what your passion is and figure out how to work it out. So today with me, I have Raven Blake.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, who is the co-founder and director of Love Fed New Haven, a really cool initiative that started maybe earlier this year to help New Haven residents and families grow their own food in their own homes and be a part of the food revolution to feed their families in a healthy and sustainable way. So, Raven, before we get into the conversation about the ins and outs and the logistics of doing everything that you do, tell me exactly where Love Fed came from.
So Love Fed started as kind of just an idea out of something that inspired me from last year when I met my partner in this venture, that's Sean Harris. He helped me actually last year to build beds for my backyard. And he, with his urban farming experience in New Haven and stuff like that, we had just been in touch and gardening last summer at the Armory Garden that was also new last summer. And in January of this year, and trying to just think of more ways of being active within New Haven, and knowing that there are community gardens, but people aren't always in them for multiple reasons, we just agreed to kind of just start from home to home on a home to home basis with people. And it's like, well, everybody lives someplace and everybody could grow something, and they don't need it doesn't need to be in a community space. So that was where our inspiration came from for starting Love Fed. And that's one of our first initiatives, is that home farm installations is what we call it now. So
home farm, it's installations or installations? Installations. And effectively what that is you bring people, you go straight, you bring the food to people, right? You bring, it's it's not teaching a man how to fish. It's, no, it's not giving a man a fish. It's teaching a man how to fish.
Exactly.
So when you are doing these installations, is there a consultation? You go to people's homes and say, all right, this corner of your backyard might work better than this corner, and these are the foods that you should think about planting, and here's a little bit of a lesson for how to maintain this garden?
Yes. So we start out by, we kind of have 4 general things that are on our website, actually, that we just got up, lovefednewhaven.org. And
beautiful. Lovefednewhaven.org, y'all.
Yes. And so we first start with people request it however they do. And then we send them just a meeting that they could set up on Calendly. And we meet them at their house at whatever time they schedule it for, and we do a little consultation. We just, assess where in their yard it gets the most sunlight, and what they want to grow and where that would grow best, and we'll just work out that space. And if they, we do soil testing oftentimes too, just to make sure that
you do soil testing. How's that work?
We do soil testing. We send to the Connecticut Ag Center on, oh my gosh, the name of the street is slipping my mind, but also to UConn too. to test the health of the soil and if there's actually any, anything toxic in the soil.
Right,
So
that
then
might hinder the growth of whatever the crop is.
Right, or get into the food and you don't want to feed yourself that food. If it's like something like lead, that's something that's actually really a big thing in New Haven. Every city has its thing. Whatever the city was known for manufacturing a while ago that people even stopped, like it's like lead because of Winchester factory, for example. It's just like the bullets, the lead from the bullets and things like that in the gun manufacturing. So we test the soil to see if we have to bring in soil, and most times we do. And most times it's just a safe bet to actually bring soil in. And so we do a little assessment, consultation, and then we just keep scheduling appointments based on when we're going to build the beds, bring in the soil, and then just plant stuff. And it's actually a fairly simple process once you get into it. But we from start to finish, we guide people through the process. It's not like we come and we build it for you and there you go, and you go, because we want to teach people from like how to actually build the bed themselves and make that happen. It's about a lot of the work that we do is about empowering people and letting them know that they have the resources already.
Right.
So
you said earlier that this sort of idea came to you when you met your now co-founder, and you kind of got into the spirit of this. Were you ever into food beforehand, or like sustainable planting beforehand?
I've been in the like food and beverage industry, specifically wine, for like 7-8 years, and I studied hospitality management in college. So I had been in like the food industry on one end, and Deshaun had been in the food industry like basically on the other end, right. Literally growing the food, right? So I had been interested, even though I was like in restaurants and wineries or wine magazine, even at a point in time, I'd always been interested in work around food sovereignty and feeding people specifically in communities that look like where I came from. And so wanting to get more into work that dealt around food that's community based, and which has also inspired me to get into the culinary program that I'm in right now at the Natural Gourmet Institute in New York.
Oh, wow.
So they're part-time, and I commute there and stay there for like 2 days a week. And it's a plant and wellness based chef training program, and I'll be done in October. Can't wait.
Woo!
But it inspired me to start, get that, because I had hospitality management experience in a degree, but it wasn't like culinary focused. So I wanted to get more of the actual culinary food knowledge to help me to start doing the work that we're doing now. Sustainability in agriculture and urban agriculture were interests of mine when I was just, specifically speaking of what I was interested in with as far as like food security goes. And I, so that's just like some ideas also that inspire what we're going to do, what we want to do in the future also, because there aren't enough of people of color in agriculture for many reasons. And we want to prepare people for opportunities that are going to come and just should exist, period. Especially when it comes to food in New Haven. We just weren't seeing enough representation for people in the community also working in urban agriculture and food issues.
So, okay. I'm going to jump into logistics about how, like, what your process has been like and what's it like being your own boss and that, right? But before I do that, I want to know, so what has been sort of new for you in taking on this, like, seeds in the ground kind of movement around food? And why is it important to be led by people of color here in New Haven?
What's been new to me, the whole process, I guess, has been new to me because I've never been active in the community in this way. So in a sense, the starting the organization and everything around, what comes with starting a new organization and the networking and stuff like that, and just the planning for the development. Everything is like new, essentially.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, starting a business is like easier than just starting almost like trying to start a nonprofit. So that has been an eye-opening process for me, and specifically, you know, something like this being led by people of color is important, like because of representation, period, around food issues in New Haven. Both being Black and born and raised in New Haven, for Dashawn and I, we worked with these organizations. That Sean specifically worked in the existing organizations that work around urban agriculture in New Haven. And when I moved back in 2016 and was trying to get into this work, because it's like I didn't have the resume, or even if I had references,
right,
or, you know, any connections, it just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, for many reasons, but also like when we're realistic about the nonprofit industrial complex in, you know, in New Haven, it was just something that I was like, yeah, do I actually want to be an intern for somebody else's organization where I just like don't actually, you know, agree with how, you know, maybe they're formed structurally or whatever reason. Because I was like, I already have work experience. Like, nobody really after post-college who actually enters the work field
without any kind of work experience
in any shape or form, or has like managed like other businesses and stuff like that, is really ever trying to be an intern ever again. Like, you're not trying to go backwards.
I never want to be an intern.
Like, who enjoys intern life?
Wait, let me just say, because now that we talking about internships, the other day I was like, you know, I might want to work for the Hayden Planetarium, and I was like, let's see what the Hayden Planetarium got going on. Go on to Google's, and they got a little science intern, and I love Neil deGrasse Tyson so much that I was about to be like, maybe this intern life is for me. But then the way my bank account is set up, I got check-ins and I got savings.
Okay. on that trying to be like, you know, trying to be adult in life and stuff, you can just be like, you like, oh, I got like, you know, man, I got a mortgage, like, I got car payments,
and you about to take 40 hours of my life without pay? I'm good.
No pay.
I'm good.
Like, so it's difficult. So, and I was just like, in a sense, because in the formation of still in the formation stages of like making Love Fed, like getting our like 501c3, I'm like, I'd rather be like interning for something that is mine,
right,
and guiding it and developing it like that, than just like
working for free for someone else's dream, or working for free for an organization where if you didn't show up tomorrow, they would replace you by the next tomorrow.
Literally,
right? Like,
exactly. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. I love there's a work around this. I love urban ag. I want to get more into it, and then I would just like because I would like volunteer in the places, and I was just like, I just not feeling this vibe.
Word.
Also, because during our collab pitch, because we were in the collab cohort 2 for the spring incubator, like in that pitch, I highlighted that like a lack of why you don't see enough people of color in New Haven doing urban and agriculture is a lack of connection with the community. Like, there are these organizations, and then there's like the community, but there's like this.
It's like disjointed,
really disjointed, right?
Which is weird, because if you think about like a place like Common Ground, right, like a charter school that their population is predominantly Black and brown students, right? But it feels even disjointed. That the work that they do feels even disjointed. When you think about how it expands beyond that student and into that student's home, right? Like, I know they do a lot of work around trying to bring the whole family into the farm, but that's an example of how in New Haven these organizations and opportunities exist to help the community, but don't actually reach a community in an effective way,
right? And there's always that kind of there's that ongoing conversation because of that, of like, why is this happening, or why aren't people interested
Right.
in XYZ? And it's just like, one thing definitely at least can be, when you look at your board of, if it's your board of directors, or if it's just like your executive
Or your staff. Right.
Exactly.
Because when we talk about the nonprofit industrial complex working in communities of color, what it usually is a fairly white board of directors, and your senior leadership team is also fairly white.
Mm-hmm.
But then the people who are interacting with the community may be black or brown, and that's sort of the caste system that I don't agree with. I mean, I've worked in my share of nonprofits, and that's how it always has been, right? Like,
right.
Your senior leadership team
Mm-hmm.
is white, your board of directors is white, and then the people on the ground interacting with kind of like the front of your
Mm-hmm.
organization.
Sometimes it's
right.
white.
It's
also
right. Sometimes it's white also, but often is
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, well, if we're gonna hire some black and brown people, let's do it to do our community engagement.
Right.
It's like,
but not actually to do like
the strategic work.
Yeah. The stuff that like helps us determine like what programs we're going to be doing.
Right. And the direction that we're going to go in, and how we're interacting with these communities of color. So.
Right. So we want to make Love Fed like responsive also. So we're going to start up some just like kind of forums that we're going to be having at our headquarters at the Armory Garden, the New Haven Armory. We have a garden on the side of it, where County meets Gulf Street.
Mm-hmm.
And just because also it's summertime, it's beautiful weather most of the time. I also have it on our website where we're looking for workshop leaders, and this is like people of color, because we just want to like
have a FUBU kind of
help. Yes.
Have a FUBU movement.
FUBU.
It's fine.
I want to say FUBU more. Way often. I don't like allow myself to say it all the time, but
it's a word that I like to use every now and again, to have a FUBU movement. All right, for those who are listening, and y'all have heard me say FUBU before, but if this is your first time listening, and FUBU is for us by us. It started off as a clothing brand out in the 90s, and it lasted about a good 5 years. A good 5 years. But the idea of FUBU is still around.
Yes, exactly. Embraced, and a song by Solange as well.
Yes. Is for us.
I think y'all gotta play this after. We gotta play that.
So, okay, now we can jump into a little bit about how you have like developed in this new space of work for you, and what that has been like. So, what were you doing before Love Fed?
Before Love Fed, I was working actually downtown at the Wine Thief.
Oh, okay.
Most recently in New Haven, and I, after college, I came back to New Haven, worked actually at a wine shop in Westport at the time, and then got an internship at a winery in Long Island.
Oh, so you were heavy in wine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, that was like my thing. So, and it was like a new wine shop that like started in Westport. I was like on the founding like team members there, senior sales persons there for a while. Then I got an internship in wine industry just over the Long Island Sound, and at Bedell Cellars. Amazing.
Mm.
I was like, it was like one of my favorite jobs in wine, and that was like a harvest internship. So I was like in the cellar. We were harvesting the grapes, bringing them in.
That is beautiful.
Making
oh my God.
wine. It was just so dope. And then after that internship, I moved to Brooklyn and started working at Wine Enthusiast magazine, which is actually out of West.
You know what's crazy is I feel like I know you pretty well, and I didn't know any of that. This is crazy. I'm like looking through my phone like, this isn't in any of my research.
Literally. You're like, wait,
who produces this show?
Who didn't give me my
Who
notes?
didn't give me my notes?
You're fired.
Fired a PA.
It's an intern. It must be an intern.
I don't got a PA, but fire anyway.
And then I went to work at Wine Enthusiast magazine. It's actually still out of Westchester, so I was commuting from Brooklyn to Westchester for as an assistant tasting coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So like accepting like all of the wine submissions that would be sent in for reviews, organizing them, and setting up blind flights for the reviewers, and just staying on top of things as far as like getting bottles for photos for the magazine, doing online like editing and writing and stuff like that.
Wow. That's still in wine, but it's actually kind of a communications job. That's not like hands on the grapes, if you will.
Right. So that that was like, I guess, definitely in a sense it was definitely a little more removed than the other positions I've held. But then I did retail again, also in Brooklyn. Then just moved back to CT because stuff is like, New York rent is real, and I wasn't really about that life of having like
6 roommates,
to just like I live in New York,
to still pay $700 a month
exactly
on a room you might still have to share
and have no like
utility, no cable.
You don't got a backyard. Maybe you got a rooftop if you lucky.
Maybe
access,
but then you got
rooftop.
like 10 roommates to be able to afford that.
Sharing
rooftop.
one bathroom too.
Right.
One bathroom.
No, it's wild. It's wild out there. So you were doing this this wine life. You basically were touching before I jump into what I'm saying. Someone, a friend of mine, Andrew, just commented and corrected me on the FUBU thing. He said FUBU has an exclusive line with Puma right now, and it will live on forever. He left the link. If anyone is curious about what FUBU is up to, check out the link. I'll post the link under the New Haven Independence Facebook Live.
I'm just like, wait, they back?
I'm taking them back right now.
I was like, did they never go away?
So is this like a resurgence, or like, what were you doing?
Were they
for
just
all
in
that
another
time?
country for a while? Like,
because Puma isn't really like huge out here, but it is big in Italy. So maybe that's the thing. It was for us by us, Italy. Like, I need more information, Andrew. If you're watching the show, I need more information. No, okay. So you were all about the grapes. You were grapes of wrath, if you will. And you went from wine retail to wine sales to wine production to wine communications, and now you're in food, and not even just like food and beverage, hospitality, but the production of food and the sustainable growth of food. What I'm curious about, because it is a career change. What I'm curious about is how have you adjusted from the life of being, an employee to now self-employed?
I'm adjusting still.
You're still adjusting. So tell us about the process of you adjusting then.
Yeah, it's definitely like really real. Like most of it, like starting anything or transitioning. Everything, you go from having a job where you go to, it is super predictable, and like everything in contrast is just like unpredictable.
Word.
And you don't have no set hours. It's just like whenever you fit in that time / that is all the time now.
That's why I say people ditch their 9 to 5 to take on a 24/7, because that's really what it is.
You wake up, you go to sleep, you eat, drink this thing now, and it's been really intense. But it's something also that like I have enjoyed doing the work so much that I'm just like, it's not that, it's not like I would have jobs where I would just like go in and I'd just be like,
yeah, I
just don't want to be here.
Word.
Like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Hence why I left my job and started Love It, actually.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I just can't anymore. Like, I was like analyzing at a place where I was just like analyzing what I wanted to do as far as my life work. And I was just like, I could, I'm still interested in wine and all that stuff, but I was like, I just really feel called to do more work around this, and I could do it in my city because there's a need.
There's a need here.
Always. And I was just like, all right, I'm just going to do this because I'm in this culinary program, which was like, the last year, I'd been looking at the program for a while, like a few years. And they have little certification things that you could get through the school too. Like not just a chef training program. And then they have like certificates and like, nutrition or like, they keep switching it up all the time with like sustainability and agriculture. And I was looking at certificates, and I was like, oh, like maybe I could get like a certificate. And then I was like, I should just do the chef training program because it essentially encompasses everything.
Right.
And I know I want to kind of just transition my work, and I need the knowledge to do that. And because I'm just interested in also helping people cook with wellness in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe like oftentimes, especially like even like with my family, I'm just like I'm interested in like helping to cook for people, or helping people like learn how to cook for themselves if they're dealing with any specific illnesses and things like that, especially that's diet related. And I believe that food is medicine, and most things are actually conditions that we can have are more times than not related to what we're putting inside of our bodies. So yeah.
Let me get a reset in real quick. If you are just tuning in, this is Work It Out with Mercy Quaye, the show about what people do for work, at work, and what motivates us to move. Streaming live at the newhavenindependent.org and on the New Haven Independence Facebook page, as well as 103.5 FM WNHH Community Radio. My guest today is Raven Blake, who is the co-founder and director of Love Fed New Haven, a dope initiative feeding people and teaching men how to fish to feed themselves. So I interrupted you and you were talking about how for you it was important to have sort of both sides of the industry, being able to feed people, but then also being able to cook. And what and you're talking about the program that you're in, the chef and culinary program that you're in. And I'm interested in wondering, does that mean that Love Fed at some point is going to go from and not even from, but in addition to sort of like the home installations and the community garden model, does that mean that at some point you're going to take the next step into teaching people how to cook the food that they've produced or anything like that? Are you planning on incorporating sort of this new craft that you've acquired into the organization?
Definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely.
Tell me more about how you're planning on implementing that. And it might be a little bit far out. So like, this is, strategize with me. What would that look like if you had, 5 minutes to talk about what that looks like?
Well, initially when we were starting this, I was like, oh yeah, this is something I'll do like throughout the summer. Like we'll just like start that ASAP. But I'm like, it's kind of on the back burner because of just doing what we're doing right now for Love Fed and balancing school and other things. So Far Sounds, New Haven.
So Far Sounds.
Like
shout out to Paul.
Hey.
Bryant Hudson.
Right.
Brother Paul.
Right.
Snooty.
I don't know that one.
That's a he don't like that I call him that, and he gonna be so mad that can we cut that out? He gonna be so mad. Where are the producers of this show?
I'm calling him that from now on. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And so I'm like, we'll just like hold off on that right now. But I did recently also take like a fermenting and pickling class that I definitely want to do in the fall.
That sounds awesome.
For when we're after when people stop growing as much as they are, and like how to preserve the food for cold months and make it last longer. That was really cool. So
have you seen I'm gonna let you finish in a minute, Taylor, but when have you
Kanye right now.
I'm gonna let you finish in a minute, Taylor, but I need to put this plug in this because I want you to be thinking about this. I want to know if have you seen like an aversion to cook in our community to cooking our own food, or like a disparity in how people receive urban farms. Put the pin in that, and let's go back to what you were just saying.
Okay, word. An aversion, like people like being resistant to it.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing different that we've seen as far as an aversion. I mean, like the only really strong aversion that we see when we were coming to people in presenting like Love Fed and stuff like that is with kids sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Like some of them don't mind getting dirty, like, and it's really interesting. And some of them are too cool. So they just like, I'm good.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, you just gonna eat that and it just came out the dirt, and I was like,
everything that you eat has come out somebody's dirt at some point in time.
Literally.
So shouldn't it be your dirt? No, but what about families? And is there sort of a discrepancy in like, or rather like even a learning curve about healthy foods and healthy eating and healthy sourcing?
There seems to be, well, there's definitely like a strong interest with families. Like, that is what I think will be interesting, especially for next year, once we kind of, you know, have a year under our belt and can gauge better like how the receptiveness of what we're doing with the community. But like, when we talk about growing food with people and stuff, like, they are so interested in it. And there's definitely because if people don't know how to grow their own food, they're definitely interested in it strongly, and like interested in doing it to better their health and the health of their families. So like, there's because we have an agricultural education program that we're doing in the summertime. We did an after school program, and now we're doing the summer program at Concat.
Because that matches up with their culinary program,
right? And they use some of that for the cafe, but like, it was so amazing to see families harvesting with their kids, and they're like, you know, from parents recognizing things that they're like, oh yeah, my kids know what this is because I cook with that all the time. So there's like definitely recognition and with like families specifically, and just like people are interested in growing their own food. They really want to. And so, and when they're just like actually seeing us do this work in their city, which is for New Haven, it's actually a rare thing for see other Black folk out here doing,
honestly, I feel like
farming.
Right. There's like no representation of folks of color
that they're like, oh, word?
Right.
When y'all gonna come to my crib next? Like, literally.
There's almost even more representation of like, you know, the Latinx community in agriculture, but there almost is no representation of Black community in agriculture. So when I see things like Thug Kitchen, right, like for me, I'm like, that's like, I need that. What, you don't like Thug Kitchen?
No.
You don't like Thug Kitchen?
No. I can't stand Thug Kitchen.
You gotta tell me why
you like Thug Kitchen.
First of all, I like Thug Kitchen because I
what? Why are you laughing?
There's no reason my kitchen should be gentrified while I'm making food. And so when I'm like following recipes, sometimes it's just hard to connect with someone who is so very much not like you, right? Like, and you're on allrecipes.com and you're following recipe, and then the excitement from, you know, this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Southern woman, and she's like, and next you want to take that butter and melt it down. And it's just so excited. The kitchen is just like, all right, so what you gonna do? You know, what you gonna want to do next is and it feels like I'm getting recipes from, you know, Uncle Paul or something. Like, it feels homely. It feels homier to me, like more familiar and like. and like thugs can do it.
Oh my gosh!
You know, if a thug can do it, then I can.
Oh my gosh, yo, because I'm just like, yo, I was like literally talking last week about
Thug Kitchen. I love Thug Kitchen.
Yeah.
All right, y'all, Thug Kitchen, because I know.
Don't nobody go out and buy this book. Don't nobody.
Because people are gonna be asking me what Thug Kitchen is. Thug Kitchen is a recipe book made, but I don't even know who the author is.
Girl,
I'm sorry.
Have you found that out? Maybe you would know why.
Who's
I don't
the author?
like it. Two pretty white kids from L.A. Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that changes everything.
I thought it was like Waka, like
no,
because isn't Waka vegan? Like
nope. I mean, he might be, but
Waka.
It is not,
he might be vegan, but it's not.
It's not. Nope.
Dang, y'all, don't go out and buy this book. Because I was just saying how I don't want my kitchen gentrified, and here they go.
Literally. I was like.
I also don't want my kitchen appropriated. So.
so appropriated because let a black person actually have made Thug Kitchen, and it wouldn't be as great sales as.
Dang.
And I don't know what the book looks like, but apparently they keep their image hidden enough that you didn't even know.
I didn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure one of the copies of the book has like black hands holding the vegetables. Yes.
That's even
wow.
That's even
y'all
crazy.
Don't go out and buy Thug Kitchen.
I'm like, wait,
you heard it here first.
Because you always have hands in a cookbook, right?
You always have hands in a cookbook.
For the most part.
Whose hands?
I was just like, whose hands is that?
Is this a stock? Imagine if it's a stock photo. I'm all kinds of upset, but enough about me. Yeah. So, because now I'm upset and I'm embarrassed, and
but like this is mad people.
I have been hoodwinked and bamboozled. This is like when I found that Jenny Boom Boom was white. This is like, dang.
You're like, wait, for real?
And nothing against. I mean, my partner is white. I can't be racist because my partner is white. So that was an awful joke to make on air. No, but it does feel really appropriative, and so now I feel bad about promoting that, especially when the conversation is about ensuring that we have representation in agriculture and in recipe making and food production and sustainable farming. So I'm going to pivot now, and I want to talk to you about what has, like I said, I was going to jump back into logistics, and you said earlier that you're trying to get off the ground and do your 501c3. You guys were accepted into the collab cohort, the summer incubator program. So tell me a bit about what that process was like for you, like just the logistics of like getting a project like this off the ground.
It was the process is just like ever evolving, and there are also like so many opportunities. So it's been interesting really trying to narrow down and pinpoint like, okay, this is what we want to do, this is what we can do, and where do we go from here, and just being really like just like selective, even though there are so many things. We're just like, it's just because it's just me and that show right now. We're a small team.
Yeah.
So.
And how are you guys sustaining like your own work?
I think for like work outside of like Love Fed or
like so you talk about I think we were off air when you talking about this, being able to intern like for yourself as right, like right. So that has an implication of right, like this is volunteer work for the moment. So how are you able to sustain yourself while doing this? Do you still have like a side hustle that you do? Or
yeah, I'm like, I have many side hustles. I can't even keep up with them right now, but like there are a lot of side hustles that have formed just from needing to make ends meet, right. Definitely in the meantime. And for Daishan, I think he's already like established himself as an entrepreneur, so it's more of the same thing really. And a lot of what we do as far as like with like the seedlings that are provided for the Armory Garden is through his company Root Life. So it's kind of just more of the same thing, and it's more like community work, and we kind of we've had to be wise about how much time we do make for it, because we do need to give it like a lot of attention and stuff like that in the developmental stages, the early developmental stages. But at the same time, we also still need to just maintain, right, and sustain, right. So for me, it's been a lot of like figuring that out, figuring out the sweet spot of like how much time and effort to dedicate, and that even though there are so many opportunities, all of them aren't going to happen at once, right. And then just taking the time and being wise about choosing what's next and sticking with that and seeing it through. So that's basically. And when we went through collab, that was that was kind of cool. I mean, it was a cool cohort. So I really found value in even just like the other ventures, and we were all just like learning from each other as we were going along in the same process. And then when we did the pitch, it's just like more people, knowing about what we had already been doing. So,
and how's sort of how have things changed, or how has your life changed in the time that you have started this venture and got selected by collab? Like, how have things changed for you and LoveFed?
things have changed. Definitely for me, things have changed because whereas, and it's interesting because I'm just like, whereas I literally had a struggle like getting into this work, trying to like apply to existing positions or even just like or positions, or whether it be like an internship or an actual job at different organizations, like it was hard to get in. And now that we're doing this work and we're definitely just like in it and doing it ourselves, from our own organization, how we want to, it's definitely been interesting because now people know about me, whereas they just didn't.
Yeah.
Like even this year, in the same year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Months apart.
Right. Because our first interview was our first interview was with Michelle Turner.
Oh, okay.
And
which is like the auntie.
Yeah. It's my girl. Yeah. And then we had like a couple of interviews actually after, like following that. And then people were just like, "Oh, you're such and such from," and I'm just like, I don't know what you're about to say, but because you're so used to be like, no, you can't know me. I'm not doing anything. And now everyone's like, right,
I know you from the thing that you're doing.
Right. And I was just like, oh, that's different because like I'm literally, because we just like are really just focusing on our work. And so whereas, we're trying to like network with people who are already doing work around food and stuff like that, and maybe filling out like possible collaborations and stuff, like I'm still learning other players in this realm too, and locally. And so when people already come to me and they already know about me, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like,
yeah,
nice to meet you. That's new, but
the anonymity of right, like the person you used to be is kind of subsiding with the notoriety of LoveFed.
Right.
And that's good.
Right.
Because doesn't that mean that to some degree you get to, reach more families, reach more homes, reach more mouths?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. It's all good it's all great for the organization and what we're trying to do. And it's definitely spreading, I think, word of mouth more than anything. Even though we are getting like, followers and stuff like that. Now that our website is up, we got like more people applying to do home farming, than like before, within a short span of time, like within a week. And I think that's super dope. And so we're actually going to be fundraising specifically to get into setting up home farm installations for at least 15 more homes before the summer's over.
Oh, wow.
Because people can still grow things well into fall. Before frost even comes, you know? And depending on if you have something to actually, like a little hoop house to cover your garden bed, you could grow the stuff through the wintertime too.
Wow.
So we wanted to, like, from my collab participation, we just said we wanted to do like 20 homes this year, this summer. And so then we have the people who are interested, and we just been working off of donations specifically right now. So we wanted people to help us to fundraise to actually carry that through. And also on our website, we have something that we set up for that's called Pay It Forward. And so that's basically just an equity-driven model that we came up with because we wanted people who are privileged in whatever way that they are, who also maybe they want to like have a garden at their house, but maybe they also like wouldn't mind paying something specific if they get a garden bed or 2 or however many they want at their home, and then have that money also go towards somebody else getting the same amount or more garden beds at their home as well. So
it's like a 1-for-1 kind of thing.
Yeah. So that's super new. We just that is new, like as far as like as long as like that's like a week old, because I just got that up with the website. I really wanted it to be up on the website once we launched it, and so now that that's launched, that's up there, and that's something that we're gonna really push and then see how that works and fill that through.
Okay, so earlier I said where all the producers at in the show, but my producer just came in and told me that we got but no. The question that I have to ask before we do wrap up is, what makes you, right, like what gets you worked up?
Gets me worked up. What gets me up every day and doing stuff.
I love the way people interpreted this question, because I ask it to every guest, like, what gets you worked up? And people are like, what makes me mad is. I'm like, okay, do you think?
Yeah. I wasn't thinking about that, but okay.
What gets you worked up?
What gets me worked up is just like my passion for the community and preparing people for future opportunities, and just by being driven by I don't know, just being driven by the love for my community, and knowing that if things could be afforded to us, like resources, that we could do a lot and go really far, even on a little reason. I'm like, Black folk especially are resourceful people.
Yeah. I
so
agree.
I'm inspired, especially for Love Fed, to see like where can we can go, acquiring the resources as we go along, equipping others with these resources, and seeing what they'll be able to do with it. And I think it's going to be really great. So that's what gets me up, really.
Awesome. Now, 10 seconds.
Yes.
Tell me what piece of advice you would give to someone if they wanted to be an entrepreneur or get into the Love Fed movement.
I would say to definitely consider the option of starting wherever you are, however you can, and even if you don't think that you have a lot, you can. There's a lot that you can do, and you don't need to have a perfect amount of things to like kickstart you into something. Like, you don't have to have everything perfectly set up. And also, like, I love that Issa Rae said this, and I always think about it all the time, but like, reach outward sometimes. Sometimes we always think that we have to reach up to other people who are like already there and stuff like that. But if you also build a community of reaching outwards towards people who are on the same level as you, then you could go really far. Because that's like how she started her
that's
Awkward
awesome.
Black Girl, and now she's on HBO. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, and before we close, I do want to say that because I just quasi endorsed The Kitchen, I must offer an endorsement of equal awfulness. And now that I know that FUBU has a summer line, Andrew got back to me. They have a summer line of velvet jumpsuits.
What?
Because velvet jumpsuits breathe so well during the summer.
I'm like, what?
I now ask you all to go out and support the velvet jumpsuit movement led by FUBU. All right, y'all. This has been Work It Out with Mercy Quaye, the show about what people do for work, at work, and what motivates us to move. I'm so happy that you were able to come out and join us, Raven, and good luck to Love Fed. Like I said, consider this your Tuesday transformation, right? It used to be Monday motivation, but your Tuesday transformation and your weekly invitation to find what your passion is and figure out how to work it out.
Thank you so much.
Doesn't matter what the problem. Go on. Work it. Yeah. Any type of situation. Work it. Yeah. I don't have no job.